Hi families, I thought it would be useful to do a talking news on the new procedures we're using in school if there were to be a positive Covid-19 case. The reason I'm doing this is the procedures that we had in place last session have changed. Last session, head teachers worked directly with public health to identify close contacts, and what that meant more often than not was that whole class groupings were having to isolate for, it was 14 days this time last year, and that was then reduced to 10 days. This session, the procedure has changed, and we're working with the guidance issued from Public Health and NHS Scotland, and the guidance came into action as of the 9th of August. Now, you may or may not remember that I had sent out a copy of the letter for your information, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk you through it so that the scenarios might make a little bit more sense, because it is really quite different to last year. And the reason the procedure has been changed is the hope that less children and less families are having to isolate for the 10-day period of time. So, if someone in your household is symptomatic, then you book a PCR test for everyone in the household. So everybody in the house would go for a PCR. That's different from the lateral flow tests, because I know that multiple families, because of the jobs and work you all do, have access to lateral flow tests, and any member of the community can get a lateral flow test kit from the pharmacy. So there's a lot of really effective use of lateral flows. However, regardless of whether you're using lateral flow tests or not, if someone in your household is symptomatic, then the whole household books a PCR test. So what that means for that period of time, it's normally just overnight, because you can get access to the PCR test really quickly unless you choose a postal one. You go for the PCR test, so more likely than not, everybody would probably still be isolating in the house for a day until the results come back. Once those results come back, anyone in the household who is not positive, so if you've got a negative return, even although dad and big sister and big brother might be positive, anyone else in the household whose PCR comes back negative is allowed to return to school and to return to work. So it's very different from last year. And it is a bit of a shift in mindset, but we have to trust the process that we've been given to work with. The only other scenario that you might come across just now is that Test and Protect might ping you and identify your child as they're moving away from the term close contact and working towards either high risk contact or prolonged contact. So you'll notice on the letter that it talks about same household, which makes sense, and sleepover. NHS and Test and Protect, I would imagine, are using other questions to agree on what a high risk or prolonged contact would be defined as, but schools are no longer part of that process. So the other scenario that you might come across is that you will be contacted or pinged. It might be a text message, it might be a call from Test and Protect to say your child has been identified as a prolonged contact, and again they will advise you to book a PCR. Again, you've got the choice of go to the drive-through. I think the closest one for us is Broadwood Stadium, but there's also a walk-in centre at Bishopbriggs Memorial Hall, and I think there's other ones. The bus pops up here and there, so there's different avenues, because I know not everybody has access to a car. You also can go onto the government's website and order a postal one. So you get the PCR, and same as the first scenario I've just talked through, get the PCR test. If the test comes back negative, you are entitled to come back to school, and we just go about our business as normal. And the school will continue to be responsive to any positive cases. So I just wanted to clarify that, because I know it's very, very different, particularly for the families. I know primary one families are new to how we manage a positive COVID case within the school, but all our families who are P2 to P7 this year, you will be familiar with the processes we had in place before the summer holidays. It's very different. And it's a real shift in thinking, but the process has come directly from NHS Scotland, and we are working with the guidance that we've been given. What I'll do tomorrow, depending on when you're listening to the message tomorrow, is I'll get a newsletter out, and I'll also put all of this in writing. I'll also resend a copy of the NHS letter which outlines everything that I've just spoken through. And if you've got any questions at all, because sometimes it helps to talk through the scenario, please just lift the phone to us and we'll continue to work on this together. So I hope you find that helpful. You know where I am. Please lift the phone and I will hopefully speak to everybody soon. Thank you.